Scabbers has been fighting, not us,
said Ron, scowling at her.
Would you mind leaving while we change?
All right. I only came in here because people outside were behaving very childishly, racing up and down the corridors,
said Hermione in a sniffy voice.
And you've got dirt on your nose, by the way. Did you know?
Ron glared at her as she left. Harry peeped out of the window. It was getting dark. He could see mountains and forests under a deep purple sky. The train did seem to be slowing down. He and Ron took off their jackets and pulled on their long robes. Ron's were a bit short for him. You could see his trainers underneath them. A voice echoed through the train. We'll be reaching Hogwarts in 5 minutes' time. Please leave your luggage on the train. It will be taken to the school separately. Harry's stomach lurched with nerves, and Ron, he saw, looked pale under his freckles. They crammed their pockets with the last of the sweets and joined the crowd thronging through the corridor. The train slowed right down and finally stopped. People pushed their way towards the door and out onto a tiny, dark platform. Harry shivered in the cold night air. Then a lamp came bobbing over the heads of the students, and Harry heard a familiar voice.
First years over here. Right there, Harry?
Hagrid's big, hairy face beamed over the sea of heads.
Come on, follow me. Any first? Mind your step now. First year.
Slipping and stumbling, they followed Hagrid down what seemed to be a steep, narrow path. It was so dark either side of them that Harry thought there must be thick trees there. Nobody spoke much. Neville, the boy who kept losing his toad, sniffed once or twice.
You'll get your first sight of Hogwarts in a sec.
Hagrid called over his shoulder.
Just round this bend here.
There was a loud, ooh. The narrow path had opened suddenly on the edge of the great black lake. Perched atop a high mountain on either side, its windows sparkling in the starry sky, was a vast castle with many turrets and towers.
No one loaded forward to a boat.
Hagrid called, pointing to a fleet of little boats sitting in the water by the shore. Harry and Ron were followed into their boat by Neville and Hermione.
Everyone in?
Shouted Hagrid, who had a boat to himself.
Right then, forward!
And the fleet of little boats moved off all at once, gliding across the lake, which was as smooth as glass. Everyone was silent, staring up at the great castle overhead. It towered over them as they sailed nearer and nearer to the cliff on which it stood.
Heads down! Yelled
Hagrid as the first boats reached the cliff. They all bent their heads, and the little boats carried them through a curtain of ivy which had a wide opening in the cliff face. They were carried along a dark tunnel which seemed to be taking them right underneath the castle until they reached a kind of underground harbour where they clambered out onto the rocks and pebbles.
Oi, you there! Is this your toad?
Said Hagrid, who was checking the boats as people climbed out of them.
Trevor!
Cried Neville blissfully, holding out his hands. Then they clambered up a passageway in the rock after Hagrid's lamp, coming out at last onto smooth, damp grass right in the shadow of the castle. They walked up a flight of stone steps and crowded around the huge oak front door.
Everyone here? You there? Still got your toad?
Hagrid raised a gigantic fist and knocked 3 times on the castle door.